A Rembrandt in the attic is any untapped or unnoticed opportunity inside a business that, once discovered and leveraged, can produce massive results. Most business owners are too close to their own operations. They don't see the Rembrandt because to them, it's just an old painting gathering dust. This isn't magic. It's not a gimmick. It's a system. A repeatable, strategic process of unlocking your hidden value and showing it to the world in a way that makes people want to buy from you. You already have everything you need. You simply need to turn it into something that works for you 24/7, building trust, driving leads, and elevating your position far above your competitors.
Welcome to another episode of Uncovering the Rembrandts in Your Attic. As you've heard me say so many times before, Rembrandt is a metaphor for anything that you have in your business, marketing or advertising wise, that's untapped. You haven't noticed it. You're not using it. It's basically something inside your business that you're not doing anything with. And once you do and you leverage it, you can produce a lot of results. Now, many aren't aware of this because they're too close to the forest to see the trees, for instance. They're in the daily hunt of the operating of their business. And to them, they don't see the Rembrandts because they just see these as things they do every day or paintings that are just gathering dust. So joining me today is a friend of mine and a fellow mastermind member, Justin Miller, who is either the founder or co-founder. I don't know what the proper term is on that, but either way, he's responsible of Jurassic Marketing, as it shows plastered all over the back of his screen, which is an important lesson in and of itself. So Justin's a co-contributor in the Lead Hunters book, and we are going to talk about today. So first of all, Justin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. Yes, founder. Single founder.
Okay.
I can't put up with anyone else to have a co-founder.
So you are responsible. If anything goes wrong, you are responsible.
Yes. Such is the life of the owner.
Yeah.
Well, accountable anyway. I don't know if responsible for.
Yeah. A mentor of mine once told me, he says, own your own business, set your own hours, all of them. So I want to jump in and talk about, first of all, give people who you are, what you do, so that they have some perspective.
Yeah, so we're odd not only for dinosaurs, but for the sake of what we do. So we're a marketing agency at our core, but a bit abnormal as that we are a print marketing agency and a direct mail agency only. So while many are out there chasing shiny objects, we're chasing ancient ones. We print and mail millions of pieces of mail from our facility 60 feet that direction here in Illinois. And we serve a variety of different client types, but most of them are, I would call, non-traditional users of direct mail. So professional service providers and similar like that. So not like you open your mailbox and you got credit card apps and insurance offers. And
Yeah.
Those are not our customers typically. We are in categories of one basically for who we mail to. And I'm sure we'll get into a couple examples here.
Yeah. So one of the things, if those that have been getting my newsletter and seeing any of my emails, one of the soapboxes that I'm on lately is how much businesses are being too reliant on or hiding behind the digital marketing world, media. And this is something that why I asked Justin to be part of this. So what do you attribute, because you talk about it in your book or in your chapter in the book, what do you attribute growth to? I mean, real growth. What are you finding it really truly comes from for businesses when they grasp it?
Yeah, so ours is all built around trust. So most all our clients are trust-based sales. They tend to have a high ticket, which means different things to different people, admittedly, but a high ticket product or service, a high transaction value. And that can be a longer sales cycle and more reliant on trust. And direct mail as a media instantly builds that probably better than any other media. I mean, broadcast TV used to be up there, and now that's scattered too. So having something in your hands it gives you a sense of this is a legitimate company whether that's right or not, you get that benefit when you physically have something in the mailbox at the end of the driveway.
Yeah. And so you said something that if people caught it, may make them uncomfortable. You said something about a longer sales cycle. And everybody wants the sale now, which is why they're online and why they're doing digital. What would you say to somebody who goes, "Oh, no, 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 I gotta have it now." What's the big advantage for having that longer sales cycle, and what does that really mean?
Yeah, well, look, I want it right now too. I get it, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we don't use just direct mail. We use digital as well, and the book is Lead Hunters, so it's about getting those new leads. Now, that being said, direct mail as a media takes a little thought, effort, and time. If for
Yeah.
no other reason than it has to be delivered, but typically we actually have to physically design and produce to a higher extent than you would in a online piece as well. And when I said a longer sales cycle, it means like not instant decisions. So even if we can generate that lead quickly, it means they aren't necessarily making a decision right away.
Yeah.
So by the time, this podcast is released, um, I'll have my first Tesla purchased, which I've been hemming and hawing about that damn thing for 20 years when the Roadster was just, there was one of them and it was Elon on TV.
Yeah.
It's not that I couldn't have bought that earlier. It's just that there were other variables that it just wasn't that important. But, I've closed that loop now. So there's the ultimate long sales cycle. How about 20 years on something? But there was continual marketing effort in play there. Now, I wish I could say they mailed me something. They did not. It's not their style, but they could have, and I could have been in their world that long. And we have clients in our world that, God, there's some that probably are on our list and getting our stuff for 5 years before they finally pull the trigger. Now, I'm not saying like we build strategies intentionally to gather only people that take 5 years. That would be a recipe for going out of business.
Yeah.
But there are those laggers in there. And yeah, I mean, I like Facebook leads. I get Facebook leads. I got some today. But probably all those people also saw 8 of my competitors' ads because Facebook's really good at figuring out what you're interested in. And it's very good at showing that to as many or putting as many advertisers in that category in front as possible. Whereas when we go offline, that's just not the case.
Yeah.
There are more and more people abandoning the mailbox. It does get more and more expensive as time goes on here as well. Inbound postage increase coming again later this year. But if the math works, if your opportunity math works, there's like no competition. It's like the least competitive thing in the world. So as long as
Yeah.
we hit the right person, the right message, and all that same stuff that we have to do in any media, it's a slam dunk usually.
Well, you talked about Tesla in that they kept in touch with you, not necessarily by mail, but take another one, even bigger company, Google. Google's entire business model is online and getting people to spend money for online, yet they promote via direct mail. I mean, people have heard that before, and they probably have seen it if they're a business owner in their mail. Why is Google doing that when they're selling online stuff?
Oh, we have
Not,
a whole slew of those examples, that I use. So Wayfair, the online furniture
yeah,
and decor, eBay, who doesn't even sell their own stuff, uses direct mail, and Amazon does on several divisions.
yeah. What do you find the value of the client is through this process? And when I say value, use whatever perspective you want on that. But what do you find the value of the client obtained by using direct mail is versus the one purely digital? Is there a difference?
Yeah, so this is something we hear over and over from our clients is that the leads oftentimes are more expensive via direct mail, as much as it pains me to say that. Sometimes they're the most expensive leads, but they are also the most pre-sold and typically are the better clients because they've got the trust, they've done a little more research usually. Like as much as we tell them to act immediately when they're reading the thing, they don't really do that. It takes a little while. Whereas if I'm online going through a funnel and you're speaking to me very well, I will respond to that. But my investment of my time and thought and energy now is up to about, 8 seconds to fill out a lead ad.
Yeah.
So by the time you get that contact, it typically is a really solid lead. And And sometimes if we've done our job right, the sales game for whoever's doing the sales for you is don't screw up the sale.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the longer sales cycle, one of the things that you address in the book is that using the direct mail, um, the conversion cycle gets shortened. And would you attribute that to the trust that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, I would. And I think everything is moving this direction in general anyways. By the time you've identified your lead, their decision is 80% made. And I think that's across all media.
Yeah.
And the direct mail just gives me a longer time period in a more trustworthy format to keep that message in front and give us a better chance of converting that person quickly.
And the direct mail showing up physically, this is inobvious, but we have to state the obvious. When that shows up, it exists in their environment physically versus, even though we have these daggone things, the emails, the posts, the Facebooks, and so on and so forth vanish within seconds. And this thing actually has real estate and reminds them continuously that you're there.
Yeah, and look, sometimes the game is just the piece being interesting enough for them to say, I might be interested in that in the future. And then it sits around.
Yeah.
Now, if you do that with an email, it sits around too, but it's not like you're not seeing it ever again. It's in your inbox of 50,000 unread emails and it's gone. And sometimes then the follow-up piece will hit that. They'll be like, I remember that. I have that first piece on my desk. I meant to do something. And that really works well for us with mail.
I had a dental client in upstate New York, and I interviewed some of their patients, and their patients talked about consistently, not even asked it about it, but they volunteered the information about how this particular dental practice just kept sending them mail month after month after month. And this one lady told me, she said she piled it up on her counter because she had intentions of contacting them. And, this world is riddled with great intentions, but we get distracted. And she became a patient of the practice because she had a stack of mail and she wasn't throwing it out.
Yeah, typically by the time they do that and they reach out, they're not shopping anymore. Like they're not even, barring some major mismatch, they're rarely looking at competitor options either, which is a big win depending upon how good your sales team or your own sales process is. Yeah. If we can come in and we're it, as long as the value is there, that's a win.
In my own case, I have a client. So you mentioned about a client rising up. I think you said after 5 years. I have a client who rose up after 10 years of receiving my mailed newsletter every month for 10 years, and they rose up and said, "We've been following you for 10 years." And now the opportunity has presented itself. And, I would imagine you could tell horror stories of the number of clients you've had conversations with who say, okay, we tried this direct mail thing, Justin, and we're ready to abandon it 2 months in, 3 months in. And I think to myself, with this particular client and knowing now what they've invested with me, if I'd have abandoned them 9 years ago, I wouldn't have them now.
Yeah, the math is, you really got to look at it. So I'll give you the example I often use, which is my very first business I had, first official business. And that was as a wedding disc jockey entertainment company. And you mentioned newsletters, so I'll talk about newsletters. We used a monthly newsletter there. Yeah. The wedding business is not built of a lot of repeat business. It does happen occasionally, but for the most part.
50% in these days.
Yeah, but they don't come back.
Yeah.
That business in particular, we'd mail that. And the only reason we mailed it was for referrals. Okay, we're doing the same thing right now with a waterproofing and foundation repair company. Once your basement's fixed, it's fixed, right? But we'll continue mailing because the math works out to where if they refer one person in the wedding business, I had the math. It was 1 in 40 years. I haven't done the math on the basement one yet, but it's similar. Actually, how much higher price point? It might be crazy high. So the average is just, they work in your favor. And yes, sometimes it's hard to attribute why that was. Rarely do they come and say, I got my stack of all the newsletters. Although we had one, I had one attend a recent workshop, and he had a 3-ring binder that he had placed all of our Jurassic Journal monthly newsletters in. Like, could have called me 14 months ago, but
Yeah.
that's not the way it worked. So we have to be there. And some people just prefer the offline format. And it sucks because if you are the type of person that prefers that, it oftentimes it's not an option. So what organizations tend to do is they will survey their customers, their current customers, and say, which contact methods do you prefer? Email.
Yeah.
They don't say which one do you respond to,
Yeah.
which one do you buy from, and that causes a little bit of a rift. But
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're comfortable in a last few minutes that we have, how do you find that most direct mail fails?
yeah, there is a couple reasons. Number one, they could be trying to do something that they haven't done in any format, so we're guessing at it with a very expensive media.
Yeah.
Online's much better for testing quickly, by the way. The reason most fails, though, is inconsistency or expectations not appropriate out the gate. So when I talk about that inconsistency, typically repetition is justified financially and rewarded financially. And a lot of the tactical things we have in play, which there's another chapter in the book here talking about referral mail, and there'll be another podcast about it, but it's a slow build type of play, and it can take 6 months to justify a result and 12 months before you're absolutely thrilled. So that's a long road. Other campaigns, we hit a neighborhood and blast them out with postcards of some sort or letters, and you get leads within a week. And really, it's blending both of them that makes this work. Because then you get your quick wins to fund your long-term gains, and your long-term campaigns and gains tend to be the ones that are the big money.
Yeah. Would you say that it is a smart marketing strategy or a dumb marketing strategy to copy what you see others doing?
Depends whose stuff you're seeing.
Okay.
So if you're going to do it by going to your own mailbox, chances are it's a bad idea. Um, Being someone that actually saves their junk mail and looks at it, yes, I see examples and I can see repeats and controls that I know are working. But if you don't have the background to really assess what's going on and why and know the full picture of the business, it's probably a poor idea. And unfortunately, a lot of times we'll have people come in and they want to blast out some postcards or something.
Yeah.
They'll see they got something similar like that. Let's throw some postcards out with some coupons. And it may or may not work. But if we're only doing it because we saw XYZ competitor, either locally or in a different area, do it, probably not a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've dealt with that for years in the video side. The minute that somebody says to me, "Oh, we want to make a video," and I say, "Why do you want to make a video?" And they say, "Because everybody else is doing it." Like that's the worst reason to be doing it.
Well, look, we do have people that come to our account exec here and say, "Hey, I want to send mail," and they really don't explain why, and we have to dig and dig and dig, and
that's where I was going next. So,
yeah,
to do this right, you really have to know why something works, how something works, and you can't rely on artificial intelligence to tell you. So, if people want to find out more about you, they want to dig into this and find out more about doing direct mail in their business and how it really should be done. How do they find out more about you? Where do they contact you and your team?
yep. Well, I mean, you could write us a letter, but no one's going to do that. So, website is best. JurassicMarketing.com. There is a quick 8 or 9 minute video on the homepage that kind of explains high level what we do and what types of campaigns we serve. And it's somewhat entertaining too. So if nothing else, it's worth taking a look at. You don't have to opt in or anything. If you do want one-on-one help and you want us to dig in, there's obviously call to action buttons on there, and you can call, text, or schedule right on there.
Yeah, yeah. And I might add, at the very least, go watch the video. It's instructive and it's very well done. Anything I haven't asked that I should have as we wrap this up?
Let's see. We didn't talk about dinosaurs. That's okay. We'll save that for next time. No,
Well,
the reason most people don't use mail, Ron, is because to get a successful piece out the door on your own, it can be an expensive pain in the butt.
yeah,
And that's where we come in, is to help bypass the learning curve as much as possible, because the learning curve could make you broke in this media. You can't send 50 pieces out in the mail and know whether or not it's going to work. Oftentimes we're dealing with sample sizes that are not significant. So
yeah.
you really got to have your best stuff first, because most of the clients we're dealing with, their universe of prospects is fairly small that they're playing with. You can't burn those bridges doing it the wrong way.
Yeah. So good advice. Good advice. So Justin, thank you very much for joining me. They're going to see you again on another podcast very, very soon. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks.
This has been another episode of Uncovering Your Rembrandts in the Attic. Thanks for watching. I'm Ron Sheetz. We'll catch you on the next episode.